it's time to prime the Indianapolis Colts offseason, our offseason primer. We started off like we do with every team, talking about an MVP, a team MVP from this last season, and then an unsung MVP. My MVP is Jonathan Taylor. Now there might be some causation versus correlation discussions here, but when he was cooking, the team was 8-2. So weeks 1 through 10, he was averaging over 113 yards per game, and they were, like I said, 8-2 through 10 games. And then weeks 12 through 18, they go 0-7, and he cuts that almost in half, down to 63.7 yards per game. Like I said, you can have a causation versus correlation discussion around that, but Jonathan Taylor was kind of the workhorse of that offense. It was I felt reminded of the Tennessee Titans with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, about how Derrick Henry made that offense look good in that year where the Titans were the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And then once he starts to not play well, you realize that Ryan Tannehill wasn't doing all that by himself. It was play action and scheme and all that. I think Jonathan Taylor kind of gave Daniel Jones some of those same benefits. So that's my MVP. My unsung MVP. Hold on. Do y'all see this? Don't try not to read. You may have already read it, but what I have highlighted. Oh, can y'all tell me how you would pronounce that? Oh crap! There it is. The top thing right there. The editum.
I'm gonna forego trying because I couldn't begin to. Adibawore.
I've got it. You're close. I've got the phonetic right below it, so y'all may have accidentally read that. JP, do you want to take your stab at it before I try and do the phonetic pronunciation?
Aditamiwa Adibare.
Yeah, it's Aditamiwa Adibare, according to Pro Football Sports Reference or Pro whatever the website's called. That's the phonetic spelling. He's my unsung. He started 7 of the final 8 games this year, coming in for DeForest Buckner. Finished second on the team in sacks, and he was a 4th-round pick in 2023. So he's been in the league this was year 3 for him. Yes, year 3. So big for him to kind of start some games down the stretch and come in for DeForest Buckner and hopefully kind of earn himself more starting opportunities going forward. Like I said, he finished second on the team in sacks, I believe, behind is Leatu Latu, the Colts edge rusher? Yes, so he finished second behind him, I believe. So big season from him, but who would y'all have as MVP and the unsung MVP?
I mean, I'm totally good with Jonathan Taylor as the MVP. Don't really know who this guy is, but it seems like he's very deserving. One, because I don't really know who he is, so that fits
that is the goal,
the mold. And then, I mean, second on the team in sacks, wasn't a crazy high draft pick. Looking to maybe be part of the next wave. I'm fine with it. The LVP of the team has probably got to be Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, he did. Unfortunately, not add a lot to the Indianapolis Colts season. Hopefully next year. JP, what do you got?
MVP, I'm fine with Jonathan Taylor. I also would have potentially said Leatu Latu. He had 3 picks as an edge rusher. He also had 8.5 sacks.
Totally fine with that, just because the name is also fire.
He had 12 TFLs, 20 quarterback hits. And then unsung, I would have done, him, but you may not know his name, Cameron Bynum.
Oh, yeah.
He had 4 picks this year, 81 tackles, which was 3rd on the team.
Sure.
Leader in celebrations.
Yeah. I saw him and was like, oh, he had a great season, but also he's not unknown. And maybe that's just our podcast that we know him very well, because you pointed out that he is like the celebration king of the NFL when it comes to turnover cellies. So I did see him, and he definitely does deserve a shout. But I was like, he's too known, I feel like, for this. But, yeah, we can get in. So that's our, all the review we'll do of the 2025 season. We don't want to dwell on that because this video is about talking about the future.
We also got to get to coaching because I got to figure out who the heck Jim Bob Cooter is.
Dude, yeah, it's fire. So the Indianapolis Colts coaching staff has 2 fire names. So head coach Shane Steichen, not a fire name. Kind of, who is it? Do y'all ever watch John Boy?
No.
Randomly.
Okay. They do this thing where whenever they're doing segments, and they see a name, they'll go 3, 2, 1, and then all rate the name on a scale of 1 to 10. Shane Steichen, I feel, is like a 4, like not that great. But the next 2 names, the OC and the DC, are both. The OC is an 8. Jim Bob Cooter's a 10. Shane Steichen.
OC's like a 6.
Lou Anarumo.
You got a mismatch too. Anarumo's DC.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. So, DC, Lou Anarumo, is going into year 2 with Indianapolis. Has some incredible weapons. That's kind of the thing that when I was trying to do the unsung player, if you look at that defensive depth chart, like all the starters, I feel like were big names and are big names. I'm gonna try and pull it up real quick. And like you think about the secondary with Sauce Gardner, with Charvarius Ward, with Cameron Bynum at safety, the edge. They've got Leatu Latu, but then they also interior have DeForest Buckner. It's just it feels like almost an all-star. They've got Kwity Paye, a first-round pick. Jermaine Pratt, a guy who's been his entire these are so many names that I know. Kenny Moore, and maybe that's because I just remember so much about this team from the preview we did last summer, but it's just a star-studded defense, I feel like. And some of them maybe are not in their primes anymore, but it's still a defense that's loaded with a lot of guys who have been really good in the past 5 years, and many are still really good right now. And so Lou Anarumo is the DC in charge of running that. And then the other side of the ball, you do have Jim Bob Cooter going to year 4. He's been there as long as Shane Steichen has. I think that name's a 10, Jim Bob Cooter. So shout out him for the name.
Sure.
But that's the
Shout
coaching
out him,
staff.
Shout out his parents.
That's the coaching staff. You've got 2 of them going to year 4 and then 1 of them going to year 2. In free agency, there's a lot of guys that are free agents that you're going to want to try and bring back. Braden Smith, your right tackle, was a starter this season. Daniel Jones, your starting quarterback. Kwity Paye, a starting edge rusher. Alec Pierce, a starting wide receiver. Jermaine Pratt, a starting linebacker. Nick Cross, a starting safety. Those are just the guys who are confidently starters, and then you have some other guys who played starting snaps. So there's a lot of guys that you're going to try and bring back. As far as money they have in free agency, let's see, how much do they have?
$36 million.
$36 million. So they're going to have to try and bring back some of those guys, and we can have a conversation now about what are the Colts going to do at quarterback. You've got Daniel Jones, who's coming back from an injury. But are they a team that's going to be in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes? I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago, just in passing, threw that out there as that's a really good roster that is not locked in to anybody at quarterback right now. Do they run it back with Anthony Richardson? Do they say we've got the roster and the weapons around him that this is going to be the best chance he has to succeed? It's a former first-round pick.
I think they're running it with Riley Leonard before they're running it with Anthony Richardson.
I thought you were to say that. You just gonna say they're running with Riley Leonard. That's a bold take. That's fair. That's fair. JP, what are your thoughts?
I think they're just bringing back Daniel Jones. I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't, even with him coming off an Achilles injury.
Makes him cheaper.
It would make him cheaper, and the way he played when they were 8-2 before the bye is, I think, good enough to say that he could lead you to the postseason. Their offense was really, really dynamic. Daniel Jones got hurt and became really hard to score. But I think what was lost in all of that was that their defense really kind of let them down for the last 6 weeks. Giving up 38 to his C.J. Stroud in that offense in the final week of the year and letting Brock Purdy literally, it looked like he was playing Madden, and he went to go to practice and he clicked offense only. And he played them on Monday Night Football, and he just went up and down the field, and they scored 48 points on Indianapolis. Their defense kind of let them down in the second half against the Kansas City Chiefs. They couldn't get the stops, and their offense couldn't score either. So I do think they're 2 games away from being back where they were and wanted to be, which was potentially winning the division and more importantly making the postseason. But they kind of just collapsed down the stretch. I think they'll bring back Daniel Jones and quickly run it back. I'd be interested for Aaron Rodgers. That'd be really, really, really neat. I think he'd be a fine fit there. I wonder how that relationship would be with Shane Steichen as a head coach who also is calling the plays.
Sure.
And Jim Bob Cooter, of course. Very important how his relationship with Aaron is. And then But I do think like that team is a really good potentially fit for him, but it's a really good fit for any quarterback. They have the weapons if they are to bring back Alec Pierce. They have Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman. They have the rookie Tyler Warren, who had an excellent year, and then Jonathan Taylor. That offensive line in Indianapolis has really never not been good as far as our football lives have been. So I do think it's an interesting fit for Aaron, but I would be shocked if it wasn't Daniel coming back next year. But just because that's more, you can sign him to a cheap contract, and he's only 30 as opposed to 43, meaning he could also then continue to be your quarterback of the future.
Yeah,
rather than Aaron and having to find another quarterback after next year.
Yeah, I just don't really see Aaron because I agree that Daniel Jones is the more long-term play, and Daniel Jones likely is going to just play better next year as well. Assuming he bounces back from that Achilles injury like semi-well. I mean, it's always a little iffy, but I don't feel like there's much incentive to pick Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I also think it would be Daniel Jones. I just wanted to throw out the possibility because I do think there's a good chance.
Objectively,
I would not be surprised at all if Aaron Rodgers ends up on a contender who doesn't have a quarterback, and he just goes in there and tries to be the quarterback of a team that's really good, and doesn't necessarily need a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen to win games. So that list of free agents. So let's say they bring back Daniel Jones. I want y'all to each pick two guys that you would prioritize. It's like, oh, we need to bring that guy back. On this list of free agents I've got right here, I think I already have the two that I would prioritize. Now, I'm not saying they can only bring back two, but who would be the two you'd prioritize?
Braden Smith, right tackle, without a question.
Yep.
Agreed.
I think he's been very, very good for them, and I would then prioritize the next best player, which is Alec Pierce. I think you bring him back. I think he had a really, really good year, especially as he kind of came into his own in terms of what he was kind of expected to be, which was a deep threat over the top to pair with a Michael Pittman who's supposed to be your physical threat. And I just don't think Michael Pittman is nearly good enough, as he's shown at least to this point, to be the only option at receiver. So I do think you prioritize those two guys, and you got the cap space to get both of them back. So those would be my two.
That's 100% where I'm at. I am a little surprised you didn't pick Blake Groupie as 1 year too. I know you have a big-time affinity for him. So
I would go Braden Smith and Kwity Paye. But I do understand the Alec Pierce thing.
Kwity Paye, he was kind of my third, so I don't disagree there.
Don't hate that at all. All right, so we're all on the same page there.
Edge rusher matters.
Edge rusher does matter a whole lot. So that's free agency. Some of the stuff they'll have to look at, some of the ways they might address it. In the draft, they do not have a first-round pick. They traded that pick for Sauce Gardner. So with their first-round pick, they selected Sauce Gardner is what you can tell yourself and what I think is the best way to view it, because Sauce Gardner's still young. It's not like you wasted a pick on a guy who's not going to impact your team going forward. But they got Sauce Gardner with the first pick. At pick 47, I think I'll have them going defense. I think offensive line is sorted, provided you can bring back Braden Smith. Running back is sorted. I don't think they're drafting a quarterback. They're not in the phase of the build. The team is too good right now to try and draft a rookie quarterback. There's no need. And so you go defense. And I've got two guys listed, A.J. Halsey, a safety from LSU, and then D. Hunter, a defensive interior from Texas Tech. Those are a couple guys you can look at pick 47, at pick 78. Defense, again. Torian York, linebacker from Texas A&M. Yes, gig 'em, Jack. A&M legend, Torian York.
100%. 3-star, not a highly recruited guy. Just an Aggie through and through.
Yeah, I feel like you
took the opportunity and ran through it. Was a 3-year starter, and he's a true junior. So legit came in, played 3 years, is bouncing. I'm not sure if I'd really feel great about drafting him though. If my team was drafting him, comes in at 5'10" is what he measured in at the senior. If he's at the Senior Bowl, is he a 4-year? Gosh, now I'm tripping. I think he's a 4-year starter.
I also don't. I feel like they changed it to where the Senior Bowl you don't actually be a senior, but I could be wrong about that. I feel like that's one of those things where they caved and people were mad. But
see, I think he's just a 3-year starter because him and Anthony Hill were same class.
Yeah.
It was always him versus Anthony Hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an Aggie legend. 100%.
Neither here nor there. I feel like you haven't thrown out the Aggie legend title in a while, so I had to see if you were holding it on for something special. Other option, Daryl Jackson Jr., interior defensive lineman from Florida State. And then in the third round, at pick 113, yes, unfortunately, Jack is stealing my notes. Michael Taff, a safety from Texas. And this is where I threw out a couple names just because they fall here, quarterbacks. And I like one of them more than I like the other, and it's Carson Beck and Drew Aller. It's just
That's like your white trio right there. You put three
that
of the
was
whitest
unintentional,
college
I
football
promise.
players.
That was unintentional. If they bring back Riley Leonard, I think it'd probably be on you think a 2 or 3 year contract, JP? I don't think he's getting a 4 or 5 year.
Riley was a
Excuse me, not
rookie
Riley
this
Leonard.
past year.
Excuse me, Daniel Jones. The
maybe
other white quarterback.
maybe 2 years.
I was thinking a 2 or 3 year contract. It would not be a 4 or 5. It would not be some sort of long term deal, just because of the injury and the inconsistency in his play, even at the Giants. So, 2 or 3 year contract. It depends on how you feel about Riley Leonard. It depends on how you feel about Anthony Richardson. But I just wanted to put those names down. Yeah, put those names in there because they both have former first overall pick hype around them, right? Carson Beck was expected to be the first overall pick in 2024.
He's the Heisman favorite.
Yeah, Heisman favorite. I think that's the right year. He was expected to be, everyone knows what year that was. I don't remember the number of that year. And then Drew Aller could have been QB2 last year had he come out, chose to return to college, go to Penn State.
Josh Allen 2.0.
Try and win a national championship and falls just short, going 6-7, losing a bowl game to Clemson, who has the other.
No, they won the bowl game. They were
Did they?
7-6.
Excuse me.
But he didn't start. Grunkmeyer started.
That's right.
He didn't start like
for
the back half of the season.
Still
hurt his foot.
fell just short of a national
I
championship.
think he hurt his ego.
Yeah. Anyway,
broken pride was the cause of missing games.
Yeah. The piece that adds now would be Michael Taff. But if you're the Colts and you're trying to figure out potential quarterback of the future, long term, if you don't think it's Riley Leonard, you don't think it's Anthony Richardson, those are a couple names that you could draft in the 4th round, Carson Beck and Drew Aller. And then in the 5th round, that would be the 5th round. Harold Perkins Jr., a linebacker from LSU. It's very defensive heavy. And like I said, we kind of talked about it. The offense is well established with that offensive line, with the running back, with the wide receivers, tight end. Like, you figure out quarterback and you bring back Braden Smith and you feel really good about that offense. So I think defense heavy makes a lot of sense. Thoughts on the draft? You don't have to talk about every round, but the general takeaways, would you agree that going heavy defense is a mistake, right move? What do you think?
I mean, I'm fine with it. Yeah, I mean, I am fine with it. It is just so weird to look at it and be like, the best player I'm getting from a draft is AJ Halsey because you don't have the first.
No, you got
pick.
Sauce Gardner.
Who is really good at losing apparently.
I don't subscribe to that theory.
That you got Sauce Gardner.
I understand.
The Eagles got AJ Brown with their first round pick in 20.
That way of thinking,
22.
but I don't subscribe to it
Okay.
because you. A first round pick, you could get anybody.
But you didn't get anybody. You got Sauce Gardner.
You could get Micah Parsons. You could get the next. You could end up drafting the next Emmanuel Forbes, but you can,
But you just drafted the next Sauce Gardner, which is Sauce Gardner.
Is Sauce Gardner overrated?
No.
He
But-
won. He
What
won.
is
He
he
won.
rated?
He won 2 games last year. His teams won 2 games last year. That's all I'm
All
saying.
right, we're having that conversation. What are y'all's thoughts on the draft, JP? I know. So you don't agree. So are you disappointed that your best player is AJ Halsey or D Hunter, or
No.
is the best player Carson Beck maybe?
I think maybe the best player is Harold Perkins or Drew Aller, the last 2
that.
picks you mentioned. But that's just the college football video game in me. I think it's fine. It's such a trading the first round pick and then for it to and then you still have your first round pick next year either, which is this is the first time I'm mentioning it, but it's something to think about for both Indianapolis this coming season. Is there's no reason to be bad. You should go and be competitive because you're still not going to be able to answer quarterback in the first round next year. But also, off topic, the Jets have 3 first-round picks in next year's draft, meaning they don't have to draft a quarterback this year. They can wait another year. and have 3 chances at a quarterback next year with the first-round pick from the Cowboys and the first-round pick from Indianapolis.
And it's going to be a low. I've seen as many as 10 quarterbacks get drafted in the first round for next year.
Next year's draft class is always better.
Yeah, I'm about to say, because everyone who was supposed to be good this year was either bad or went back to school. So Dante Moore, Lenore Sellers, both went back to school.
I do think when you're in this spot that you're looking for pieces that will develop, though, for the future, because you do have a lot of your placement already there. And so you're looking for guys that will develop under, whether you think Sauce Gardner is good or not, but him and Jafarius Ward, or will develop under an aging Cam Bynum or an aging DeForest Buckner, or if you went running back or receiver or offensive line, age under the veteran players that are already established there. So I think that's what you're prioritizing, unless you have a very, very clear need, is guys that will develop under those guys, and so they're ready to step in when those veterans are eventually free agents. And that'll be kind of the reality for Indianapolis the next year, where they go from this offseason at $36 million cap space, and right now they have $180 million in cap space for the following year. So I think that's where you prioritize.
Yeah. 2026 goals, I have win the AFC South. You were the front runner for that, and then Daniel Jones goes down to injury, and your offense loses its dynamicism. Dynamicism, right?
I do believe you're right.
Okay, cool.
Well done.
Just wanted to double check myself there. Check the dictionary. And then the defense, like JP said earlier, kind of disappoints down the stretch. So the goal is to get back and get in that same position and then finish the season. That's my goal. And then my second goal is to figure out quarterback. You bring back Daniel Jones on, I doubt it'd be a 1-year deal. I don't know that he would sign that, but a 2-year deal. And then if he plays poorly with the supporting cast that he has, then you can start to hit the panic buttons and be like, wow, Daniel Jones has a great supporting cast and he's still not playing well. This is not the quarterback of the future. Or he does play well and he is the quarterback of the future. Or he goes down and Riley Leonard comes in and wins a Super Bowl, and then everyone is happy.
I'd not be happy.
Well, I don't know why you're a Riley Leonard hater, but we don't have to get into that right now.
Well, just my team's not winning. So why would it be happy?
Okay, that's fair. But y'all could be in the Super Bowl. Y'all could lose to them in the Super Bowl.
I'd be even less happy.
Well, then y'all can go 0-17.
That would be crazy.
Okay. Anyway, man, you were just a complainer.
JP didn't put us on 0-17 watching the offseason primer, so I feel pretty good about not going 0-17.
Although, yeah, okay.
I think the Chargers are more likely to be 0-17.
Oh,
than
gosh.
Sure,
man,
Good
sure.
grief. We're just
let's be
lying
honest
now.
here.
What are your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts 2026 goals? Is winning the AFC South a realistic goal? Or are the expectations too high if that's one thing you want to accomplish?
So much has been said every single year for like 3, I don't know, you could even go 5 straight years now since Andrew Luck's retirement of, oh, this roster's ready to win. Can we just figure out quarterback? Oh, this team's ready to win. Why can't we get out of our own way? Why can't Gardner Minshew complete the pass and the flat route? You go 9-8, 8-9, 8-9 your last 3 years. It is, I think, that's a fine goal to have, but I do think it's a, man, can we decide whether we want to be really, really darn good or just tank kind of thing? And I think that would be kind of the feeling. I think they have felt like for 3 straight years going into the season, they were due to finally kind of pop a little bit less so this past year because Daniel Jones was a little bit of a question mark. But they feel like they are ready to win, and yet they aren't winning and haven't been in the postseason in 3 straight years. Unlike Houston. Like Houston feels like they're ready to win, but they've won a playoff game every single year. Or even Jacksonville. Jacksonville's made the postseason
won a playoff game.
Won the division and won a playoff game.
I remember it well.
So I do think they want to get out of that kind of rut because they have just been like the AFC South's Pittsburgh Steelers every year.
I've been trying to cook up a Pittsburgh purgatory version, and all I can come up with right now is like maybe a Colts Castaways. I don't Castaway Island. I don't know. I'll keep workshopping it. I can't think of any synonym for purgatory that starts with an I. Indianapolis Island. I don't know.
They've gone 6 straight years with a different quarterback. Phillip Rivers.
I did think it was funny when you said Andrew Luck 5 years ago, but it is 2026, so that was like 9 years ago now.
Yeah, you could even go back to
or maybe
the year
7.
Andrew Luck retires. It's Jacoby Brissett. Then it's Phillip Rivers. Then it's Carson Wentz. Then Matt Ryan. Then Gardner Minshew. Then Anthony Richardson. And now this year Daniel Jones and Phillip Rivers again. So,
What a crop.
Yep.
I think it's a semi-realistic goal for them to win the division, but I think really their goal should just be make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, who cares how we get there? Let's just
That's
get
fair.
there.
That's fair.
They'd be so happy with that, I think. But
I like that more.
When they traded Sauce, I sat here and said this kind of signals that you really think you have the roster that can go win, and so you're trying to make that like final push move. And so I do think there's a good bit of pressure, even though the QB situation is unknown. You've kind of put on yourself that there is pressure to perform and finally make the playoffs or win the division or do something. Like just do something.
I think they're going to be in a spot where they're potentially the fourth favorite to win the division.
Yeah,
Not
it's
from
a scary spot
not from
to
a
be.
Vegas odds, but from you ask people around. You ask 100 people, Family Feud style, who wins the division for the AFC South next year. More people might pick the Tennessee Titans.
No shot.
You might not.
I think so because, you're going to have some actual
And
ball
we'll talk about
knowers
them in a second. Yeah.
that know about the week's schedule, and I think they're going to be a pretty popular pick to make this leap. And I just kind of think the Indianapolis Colts, and this is not great to say on the primer when the Colts fans are going to be listening, I think they've just in recent years kind of become a little forgettable because of what we just talked about. And so the casual fan, I think, is more likely to think of the Tennessee Titans before they think of the Indianapolis Colts.
You could get 3 people that say, "Oh, the Titans are the fourth to first team next year," and that is the reason they picked them. So,
Except we've got at least a dozen fantasy football players out there who like Jonathan Taylor winning the division. That's what's going to keep the Colts
but then
out of
just
that.
as many. Well, I drafted Cam Ward first
Jonathan
overall
Taylor-
in my keeper league last
Jonathan
year.
Taylor fell out of the first round in fantasy football this year, before the season.
That was a
In the draft.
mistake.
I think he's getting old.
That was a mistake. He's drafted in 2021.
Exactly. These
Okay.
shelf lives, man, for running backs.
No, that is
Sure.
true. That is true. Well, I like that better. I like them making the playoffs better, just because the reality is they're in a division with the Texans, and the Texans could be fantastic next year
Yeah.
if they figure out that offensive line and
Jaguars
CJ
would be
Stroud plays well.
fantastic.
The Jaguars, there's a non-zero. There's a small chance that the Colts are in the division with 2 12-win teams, 11-win teams next year.
I don't exactly know
They
who
already
they
were this year.
Were they?
13-win Jacksonville, 12-win Houston.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's not a hot take then. Well, then 2 15-win teams. There's your hot take.
Wow.
2 15-win teams.
You could say 14. Detroit and Minnesota had it,
Yeah.
and then Green Bay still made the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the Colts making the playoffs in a division with the Jaguars and the Texans is something to be excited about and is a reasonable goal.
Yeah, I'll just do something. That's my 2026 goal.
Just
do something of note.